You might never believe it. The man in the photo, round as a ball, was once the most agile fighter in the ring. A mysterious assassin no one could figure out. His movement was ethereal, his footwork ghost-like. That slick, effortless shuffle of his trapped countless opponents as if in quicksand, rendering all their efforts useless. His punches were sharp and unorthodox, his tactics full of deception. Every strike he threw carried a deadly intent. It's hard to imagine how a man just 160 centimeters tall could rise to rule the bantamweight division, a battlefield dominated by sharpshooters. But not only did he rise, he remained undefeated in 35 straight fights, knocking out 31 opponents in the process. Some worshipped him for his shocking, otherworldly technique. Others hated him for his overwhelming arrogance. But no matter how you see him, one thing is certain. In the boxing world of the 1990s, he was the most dazzling phantom. He haunted every opponent, a tactical genius who moved like smoke and mirrors. His defense had no guards, just extreme head movement and footwork, dodging heavy blows like they never existed, like illusions in water and moonlight, vanishing in an instant. Even in an era filled with boxing greats, none could match this showman. Blades flew, chaos reigned, heroes rose and fell, as the eastern winds stirred old dreams. He stood smiling atop 1,000 peaks. Today, let's dive into the story of a man whose fights were like performances. A boxing genius even more controversial than Mayweather. Prince Naseem Hamed. This is a story full of awe. In February 1974, Hamed was born in Sheffield, England. His parents came from the distant land of Yemen. As a child, he began his boxing journey under the guidance of Irish coach Brendan Ingle. From the start, his confidence and talent stood out. He dared to break away from boxing traditions, turning seemingly casual gestures into deadly traps. Even in his amateur days, he competed across Europe and won multiple continental titles. At just 18 years old, he couldn't wait to step into the brutal world of professional boxing. In April 1992, Hamed made his pro debut. From that moment on, his flashy leopard print shorts became his signature look for the rest of his career. When the bell rang, he moved like a phantom, darting left and right. Every punch was precise. He even launched counterattacks while leaning back to dodge blows. With 1 minute left in the round, Hamed feinted, then suddenly shifted positions like a magician. By the time his opponent realized, Hamed was already behind him. 2 powerful punches later, knockout. Clean and textbook perfect. In the second round, Hamed read his opponent's movement perfectly. While drifting away gracefully, he landed a right-hand body shot. Light, yet lethal, without even taking time to rest. Just 2 weeks later, he went back into battle, facing fellow newcomer Norman Champ. Hamed's ghostly footwork and bizarre, unpredictable moves left his opponent completely lost. While the opponent was still dazed, Hamed struck like a snake out of its hole, scoring the first knockdown of the match. As the saying goes, strike while the enemy is weak. After landing a clean punch, Hamed unleashed a storm of attacks, his fists like heat-seeking missiles. Wherever the opponent ran, Hamed's punches followed, inescapable. In the end, the opponent could no longer defend. One final heavy punch from Hamed brought the fight to a decisive end. This is good stuff. This is very impressive. And Norman is getting a fearful pain. Stick in this round up-down. Watching Naseem Hamed's fights, above all, it's about pure entertainment. After landing a punch on his opponent, Hamed would break into his flamboyant dance moves, swaying like seaweed in the ring, drifting with the wind. His opponents grit their teeth in frustration, yet they're helpless against this eccentric guy. His unpredictable and unorthodox fighting style often leaves opponents completely bewildered. In October 1994, Hamed challenged for an international title. He was set to face Fred Cruz for the vacant Super Bantamweight Championship. The Prince's elusive movements were like a blazing fire, engulfing every attack his opponent threw at him. And the fancy top so far bruiser the test was on his trucks. Oh, got a good shot. You see him shaking in the opening round. That is news. These shots again. I don't think I've ever seen a fatal. But just so much time for this earth room. They nearly turned the boxing match into a professional wrestling show. In one brutal exchange, both fighters fell to the canvas. But the prince popped up like a spring, executing a smooth kip-up followed by a graceful forward roll. That's the prince's signature style. Not just flashy, but flamboyant to the extreme. So outrageous that even his own family might not recognize him. He left his opponents confused, laughing and crying at the same time. By the 6th round, the referee looked at the bruised, helpless opponent, and waved off the fight. The prince was declared the WBC International Champion. His professional journey had officially begun. So just how wild is Prince Naseem Hamd? If we're only talking arrogance, even Conor McGregor might have to tip his hat. After defending his national title 5 times, Hamd set his sights on the WBO world title and its reigning champion, Steve Robinson. This was the first time Hamd faced a truly dangerous opponent. Before this fight, Robinson had defended his title 7 times. He was undefeated, a true champion. But this time, he was completely played by Hamd. Let's get straight into the action. Wearing leopard print trunks, Hamd moved like a golden cheetah, his footwork smooth and elusive, his figure dancing in front of his opponent like a phantom. His hands were always down, relying solely on extreme body movement to dodge powerful punches. As if performing a deadly dance, Robinson stayed defensive, waiting for the right moment to strike. He was extremely cautious when Hamd closed the distance and unleashed a rapid-fire combo. Robinson countered with a heavy shot, a clean hit that startled Hamd, sending a cold sweat down his back and forcing him to finally raise his guard. But it didn't take long before Hamd got cocky again, sticking his head out to taunt his opponent. Robinson, however, was suspicious, afraid it was a trap. He stared at Hamd, hesitant to make a move, like a bird spooked by the twang of a bowstring. "He's playing out of the high hell of God," said he wasn't gonna chase him, who's gonna less. "He's not doing a great deal in the moment. He's obviously gonna look the counter to try and cut live off on those reps and get swamps. It might have here." Hamd kept provoking his opponent. Perhaps it was all part of his strategy. He wanted to lure his opponent into attacking first, so he could exploit his counterattacks and speed to find a weakness, quickly shifting into a defensive counter. He waited for the perfect moment. By the 2nd round, his opponent was already treated like just another stepping stone. Prince Hamd struck first, landing the match's very first knockdown. That punch seemed to unlock Hamd's full potential, kicking off his own personal showcase. With masterful dodges, blistering punches, and unstoppable momentum, Hamd once again stormed the ring like a force of nature. They're coming out of that defensive shell, and he's managed to do that. I think now how much. Try to open up and look at Robin rounds in that scene. After an even open, Robinson gets through. Robinson, who's got the champions of Heavenson, because all he's doing is hitting the night air. We must. It's not some problems needs to get to Hammond to wear them down. There's more. Hammond didn't allow them to get in range. You see good defensive work there from Hammond. All the time taking those left. Is reflected man the kid louder the way of Robinson. And when Robinson tries to punch you, and it comes back with quick counts, Robinson always got it. Down goes Robinson, burning the 2nd time in his career. He's been outboxed in there at the moment, and these are bad moments now. But Steve Robinson, and becoming champion here, I guess he's really turning on the style now. This time I got 7 times before Robinson still. By the 8th round of the fight, his opponent had completely exhausted his stamina. Then came a lightning-fast leaping hook, aimed straight at Robinson's temple. The opponent staggered left and right, before collapsing face first to the canvas, completely unconscious. A couple of brows. Baby. Respect. Debuting at 18, and becoming a champion by 21. Hamd achieved in just 3 years what most fighters can only dream of for a lifetime. But Hamd's ambitions didn't stop there. Even though he won the world title, an injury to his wrist during the fight would haunt him for the rest of his career. In March 1996, the undefeated new champion stepped into the ring for his first title defense. Right from the opening bell, Hamd showed fans his assassin like magic. One encounter, one knockdown. His opponent instantly panicked, like dying prey trembling before a cheetah. Hamd's second punch, a precise and deadly uppercut, knocked down the helpless challenger again. By this point, Hamd was already a superstar in British boxing. Even his entrances had to be legendary. In his second title defense, his ring entrance was truly over the top. As the music played, fairies scattered petals in front, while 8 men carried Hamd on a grand sedan chair, as he was lifted high into the ring. But once the fight began, Hamd nearly embarrassed himself in front of everyone, kicking off of the traditional mockery of the opponent's skills. The right hand gets through from outside. The champion recklessly stayed in the exchange for too long. He's not psyched out in any way. Right high again. The opponent seemed to have figured something out. He followed Hamd's evasive movements and landed a precise heavy punch. In an instant, Hamd was on the ground. Everyone thought he was going down for good. But just a second later, Hamd quickly got back on his feet and shook his head. He seemed to say, "If anyone's going to take me down, it won't be you." This opponent came into the ring with a flawless record, 15 wins, no losses, and 13 of those victories were by knockout. But once Hamd got serious, that once dazzling display of power from his opponent was like it had been sealed inside Pandora's box, unable to threaten him anymore. Next came the challenger, Medina, a fighter with immense experience. Before facing Hamd, his professional record stood at 52 wins and 7 losses. Over the course of his long career, he had won championship belts 5 times. In the second round, it was Prince Hamd who broke the deadlock first. Charging forward with long strides, he threw a powerful left hand that broke through Medina's defenses. The outset. This is the round he predicted he'd win the left hand. Round 3. The veteran launches a counterattack. A rear straight punch breaks through the defense, followed immediately by a lead hook to cut off any retreat. The prince's mouthguard nearly flies off. But that's all it is. The prince doesn't go down. He keeps his hands low, utterly fearless. This moment proves one thing. The prince's chin is unshakable, as solid as a rock. Later in the fight, then has it even at the moment in the right hand from having, as within a Galds, and the warning summits had about giving his gapped ship a hands low. Finally, by the 11th round of the match, the opponent was completely exhausted and covered in bruises. Even his arms grew heavy. After the round ended, on the advice of his team and the medical staff, Medina chose to forfeit, conceding the match, and with that, the prince successfully defended his title, extending his undefeated professional record to 23 consecutive wins. Following 4 successful title defenses, the prince rose to challenge for the IBF title against reigning champion Tom Johnson. This clash between 2 champions was nothing short of a high-stakes gamble, with both men putting all their glory on the line. The scene each punch clearly had an impact on. Some Southern Lake. He's got him in the left hand. Johnson packed up against the road to take another rope and his friends on the right hand catches. This is gonna try and hurt her man. By the 7th round, the prince had picked up the pace of his attacks. His speed was overwhelming, like a candle flickering in the wind. His opponent could barely keep up. Unwilling to back down, Johnson tried to launch a final counterattack, but there was no escaping the prince's unyielding grip. A powerful punch, right on target. It landed like a curse, sealing his opponent's fate. Johnson staggered backward, each step more uncertain than the last. The prince gave a wicked smile, circling his prey with the calm of a predator. As Johnson bent forward in desperation, the prince's uppercut rose from below, a fist straight from the depths of hell. And with that final blow, he sent Johnson back to the underworld where he came from. In the next frame, he found a way to blow up Boom Boom's old noggin. In less than 5 years, the prince achieved an unbeaten streak of 25 consecutive wins. For a time, he was unbeatable by anyone. He also became the dual champion of the WBO and IBF titles. Crossing the river on leaves depends entirely on a single wave of power. This is the prince's fighting style. Now, as the reigning dual champion, the prince naturally became a thorn in the side of his opponents. His fighting style has been repeatedly studied by rivals, but no one has been able to easily crack it. Hamd also decided to leave the UK and head to the US to face stronger opponents. In his first fight in America, he faced former WBC and weight class champion Kevin Kelly. Kelly was no small fish in the boxing world. With a record of 47 wins, 1 loss, and 2 draws, he once held a 41-fight winning streak. As the first round began, the Prince abandoned his usual arrogance, raising both arms in a defensive stance, prepared and vigilant. When he pushed Kelly against the ropes, Kelly's sudden burst after dodging with a duck became a desperate counterattack. In the second round, Kelly unleashed his fury again, pressing his attack directly against the Prince. But the Prince held his ground like he was carrying a fire extinguisher. Even after taking 2 heavy punches, he remained calm and unfazed. At this moment, the crowd outside roared like thunder, eager for Kelly to draw his blade once more, to use those iron fists that defy the impossible, and teach the arrogant Prince a lesson. But the Prince, Hamd, responded with the most brutal and relentless revenge, shattering the last hope of the entire American crowd. Punch it. Both now it's turning into a slugface. Kevin, tell him try to end this right now. The Prince turned the tide against all odds. Twice he knocked down his opponent under intense pressure. Just as the 4th round was about to end, Kelly landed a powerful counterpunch. While defending, the Prince fired a heavy left hook. His opponent was already stunned, completely shaken and overwhelmed. Homeland socks now. Don't go 20 again. 5:20 seconds ago. The referee finally called an end to the match. The Prince also, quite unusually, showed respect to Kevin Kelly after the fight. He secured a win in his US debut, albeit with some close calls. Prince Hamd's name entered the American audience's awareness. While the Prince's dodging was certainly skillful, it was not without flaws. In the next fight, he faced off against the Lebanese contender Wilfredo Vazquez. Vazquez had held titles as a 3-division champion in the lightweight, super lightweight, and welterweight categories, making him a formidable opponent. He does have most explicitly. They're a bit frightened to leave, into orders to say don't start being breakfast at the off. In the second round of the match, Vazquez nearly seized an opportunity, as Hamd made a swift advance. The opponent's counterattacks came in rapid succession. Even the powerful Lycan almost forced Hamd to kneel on the ground. Never get this right hand punch on the butt. Hamd, unwilling to fall behind, immediately maxed out his evasion skills. His opponent launched a flurry of punches, but with no fire left, Hamd unleashed a lightning-fast counterattack, power rising from the ground, fueled by his heart, a hook followed by 100 strikes, instantly knocking his opponent to the ground. I'm asking, what coming to the left up there? It's got to get the Renaissance down there. Then Hamd's senses surged to the max, and he delivered a second knockout. Noise in the Coleman. No, I'm not having that. Hamd's dominance not only left his opponent helpless, but also completely enraged him. In the 7th round, the opponent launched an attack but exposed an opening. At this critical moment, Hamd swiftly leaned back and delivered a sharp, decisive counterpunch, certainly missing a lot. We didn't miss him with just not learning any function first. But we've got a little up-pointed. Oh snakes, then they started to go. He's gonna get October. He is gonna get October here. But if he can't control his legs, he can't control the fight. No, he might let him go on, but I doubt it's giving him a longer. Plenty of 8 days getting up to 8. Recording it in Spanish, so that he understands it. He alright, you get back in again. But it's just walking back into the fire again all over. All over. And the crowd goes right in mad. In the end, Vazquez's mindset had been tormented by Hamd, to the point of collapse. Hamd effortlessly claimed victory in this match. The Prince's professional career record also reached 30 undefeated bouts. At the same time, that year, the Prince and his longtime coach Engel parted ways due to various conflicts. He resigned from coaching after more than a decade, and Coach Engel publicly revealed that after gaining fame, the Prince was no longer as hardworking as before. The Prince hired a more famous coach, But with his unconventional fighting style, would he be able to adapt to the traditional coach's tactics? In October 1999, the Prince's career continued to rise, as he challenged the reigning WBC champion. His opponent was Cesar Soto, a professional boxing champion from Mexico. This championship bout would also test what new techniques the Prince had learned from his new coach. In the Prince's past matches, his lightning-fast attacks and graceful footwork were his signature moves that dominated the ring. But in this fight, he took the clinching tactic to the extreme, losing the boundless creativity that once defined him. The change of coach resulted in his fighting style becoming plain and ordinary. The Mexican surrendered the title only after the final bell. Stop. After a full 12 rounds, the Prince snatched the WBC championship belt from his opponent's hands, becoming a two-division champion once again. In August 2000, the Prince's career entered its final countdown. This was also the last time in his career that he successfully defended his championship belt. His opponent in this fight was Joel Sanchez, with a career record of 26 wins and 1 loss. Sanchez's attacks were fierce like a blazing fire. The Prince was playing with fire and almost paid the price with a knockdown. Seeing the Prince's defense about to crumble, Sanchez seized the opportunity to press forward with heavy punches again. Their pan there from Sanchez was a good one. Ambitious. That's when he's up. Always felt he has to gain confidence. You can do that. Begin to come. He's not the plot. From all these Sanchez. And Hammond is down for the 5th time in his career. Well, there for the old winter shell. Should he be training? Is he gonna pull up again? And the dad and having anyone down, such as is catching heaven with some clean shots back from the Prince. The live audience was ecstatic in the first moment, cheering with raised arms, thinking a miracle was about to happen. Then the Prince adjusted his mindset, and the red alert was lifted. After several fierce attacks from Sanchez, the fuel left for him was almost gone. No longer able to ignite that blazing fire. Hair up in the 3rd round left the game from Searches in the industrial trouble, such as is wobbling and back comes Organ. Left hand from Hammered, and Sanchez going as well for him. He's caught Hammer with a left hand. Not be the mistake in that post round. And he's trying to have torn for because I don't. In the final 4th round, the Prince launched a decisive counterattack, using precise punches that left his opponent defenseless. Good night talk. Right hand all your touches and stone. I'm serious. This match, the Prince won without much trouble, sending his opponent off on a stretcher. His professional record updated to 35 consecutive wins and 14 title defenses, successfully retaining the WBO championship. However, through multiple knockdowns by Sanchez, the Prince's retreat and counter techniques began to be exposed to all his opponents, and this highly instructive fight did not go unnoticed by a top Mexican fighter. This was the most dark day in the arrogant, undefeated reign of Hammond. A decade-long unbeaten streak ended with this battle. That night, the Prince was gifted the thought of retirement, which would also become an unforgettable memory of Hammond's spine being pierced by his challenger. This is the peak showdown between the Prince and the Assassin. The undefeated Prince with 35 straight wins, facing off against the baby-faced Assassin, Barrera. The once unstoppable Lingbo Weebu footwork completely failed against Barrera's heavy punches. Now, let's revisit this classic and experience together this shocking upset that stunned the whole scene. Originally, the Prince's scheduled opponent was One Punch Man, Marquez, but the Prince's coach believed Marquez's wild attacking style would pose a threat to the Prince, so they chose another Mexican fighter, the baby-faced Assassin, Barrera, to prepare for this fight. Barrera gave up the WBO minimum weight title, gaining weight to move up to the flyweight division. So, before this match, almost no one favored Barrera, but Barrera's relentless offense made this battle destined to go down in history. There is not looking in. And a couple of shots of the body. Round 2 of the match. Both fighters fell to the ground at the same time. As Barrera was getting up, he threw a punch straight at the Prince, showing no mercy. Although the referee warned Barrera, the anger burning in both fighters' hearts was fully ignited at that moment. spiraling out of control. The prince is the aggressor, the Rarelands of Gab asking. Big left hand by the Marion side. Every round Florida shift. In the earlier rounds, the prince skillfully dodged with his signature moves, deflecting powerful punches. But as the fight went on, the expression on his face grew more serious. The calm and ease he once had vanished. Perhaps at this moment, the prince was completely flustered, not even knowing how to respond to the deadly intent of the Mexican fighter. Ferrari doing flown in which, with some world blunt, now for the first time you love pan parsley block. Think about Prince, but he doesn't have anything. Barrera suddenly dispensing with the dad, as stalking and trying to lamp that left thought. You see the brisk. Another. Distract Barrera. Throw on the left hand, but he hasn't thrown anything with it. Arrows playing possibly in the hard right hand. Find the scene Emperor ever comes back. Totally misunders even. I don't think he's ever been hurting the fight. But what he gets hit is hit. Nas has got to try to land a big knockout for instant. Nas will not come back with English. That the prince has developed. Since he is a boat-delivered round. So in the last 6 rounds, Far goes to empower and lead to the shots. He's not taking advice. He's going for. I think Barrera has already shown with his chin one lit. Thick lit. The furious and relentless Paris Barra turned the situation completely one-sided. The embarrassed prince even thought about a fight to the death. But his desperate heavy punches frequently missed, striking the air in vain. Once, the prince's swaying was an active skill used to dodge. But now on the ring, his swaying is a helpless reaction to heavy blows. Barra's relentless attack also crushed the prince's last stubborn resistance. In the end, both fought a full 12 rounds. And the prince lost his professional career's first defeat by unanimous decision. At this moment, the prince's myth was completely shattered, although he later won another match and became the IBO and weight class champion. For the prince, boxing had become tasteless food. He still threw away the championship belt, choosing to retire from the scene. Since then, the boxing ring has never seen someone so flamboyant, so rebellious. Perhaps when people mention Prince Hamd, the most profound impression on fans is his arrogant performance and his incredibly flashy dodges. But please don't forget, the prince also possessed shocking heavy punches. His career was already set in stone. Debuted at 18. Became champion at 21. Professional record, 36 wins. 1 loss. 31 wins by KO. With a knockout rate of 84%. Arroyo and Jones both seemed to have turned boxing into an art. But the only difference was, Jones, although he was once hit hard too, had a determination that would never back down without hitting a wall. As for the prince's bitter retirement, perhaps after losing to Barra, he realized he could no longer rely solely on talent to defeat all opponents in the ring. If he changed his fighting style, he would lose his unique assassin's creed. Now, Prince Hamd has been retired for a full 20 years. From the agile ring sprite of the past to a round, well-fed figure. After retirement, he ventured into real estate, and now his net worth is as high as £50 million. Prince Hamd is perhaps one of the most controversial boxing champions in history. Fans who love him adore him deeply for his style, while those who dislike him hate him bitterly for his arrogance. Whenever his videos appear, the comments section is filled with Barra's supporters. But please don't forget, Hamd was once the king on the mountaintop, the brightest star of his era. Feel free to share in the comments your thoughts on Prince Hamd. Thanks for watching this episode of Fighting Insight. See you next time.